Welcome back to The Weekend. We start this hour with the latest developments out of Newark, New Jersey, where Mayor Ras Baraka is now free after federal officials arrested him on trespassing charges yesterday. The mayor was on site of Delaney Hall, the new immigration detention facility that is expected to play a central role in President Trump's mass deportation effort. Mayor Baraka had this to say on MSNBC following his release.
They obviously targeted me. It was I wasn't the only one out there. They came directly to me, right? And tried to arrest me. I was already there earlier that morning. I didn't need to, if I wanted to protest, I could have protested that morning.
And to that point, not a protest. This was members of Congress and the mayor doing oversight. 3 members of Congress from New Jersey were present at the time of the chaotic scuffle and put their own bodies on the line to try and protect the mayor from being arrested. That includes Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman, who denounced the mayor's arrest.
This is un-American. This breaks my heart that in the United States of America, as imperfect as it has been, there's never been this disrespect for individual rights, for positions, or for just justice in general.
Joining us now, Representative Rob Menendez, one of the congressmen who were with Mayor Baraka at their inspection of the new ICE facility, and Catherine Christian, MSNBC legal analyst and a former assistant Manhattan district attorney. Congressman, I want to start with you because you were there with the mayor. What was your initial reaction? Because you guys weren't there protesting, you were there doing your job, right? You were there serving oversight over a facility.
Yeah, that's correct. And we had been there for several hours that day, waiting to be let into the facility. Over an hour and a half, they had us waiting there. And eventually all the upper brass from ICE Newark's field office came, and they went right past us and went towards the gate. And that's when we realized Mayor Baraka was there. And then everything that you saw through video, through interviews, happened thereafter. And it was a situation that was calm for hours that, in my opinion, Homeland Security, ICE, HSI, escalated quickly.
Congressman, let me get your reaction to the acting ICE director, a message he had to deliver to Mayor Baraka on Fox News. And this happened today. Watch this.
We've heard intelligence that they're going to continue to protest. So he's trying not to make a statement. It's turned out to be a campaign ad, and he's putting folks at risk. It is wrong. It's really frustrating, the fact for him to say that he's out there protesting when in fact he wasn't, right? Officials had been in that jail last week. They found no issue with it. The congresswoman yesterday said they visited inside and that people were being treated fairly and humane. So I just don't understand why you would do this.
Congressman, there's a lot of things in what the acting commissioner said that isn't exactly right. As Eugene said, and we're going to keep pointing it out, you guys were there, the mayor was there not to protest, but to do oversight. Your reaction to what you just heard?
Yeah, and so what I've been saying since yesterday is that this was a clear act of intimidation. The mayor's been consistent in that this facility is in his city. He wants to have the opportunity to go in, perform inspections. I think that's entirely reasonable. We went there yesterday to perform our oversight authority. But when you have 20 armed HSI, ICE individual, if you have all these individuals show up with their police HSI jackets and they come to engage the mayor of the largest city of Newark and 3 members of Congress, how is this not intimidation? The fact that all those people that you're seeing in this video don't have their names on their uniforms, the fact that they're covering their faces, the fact that they have more than one firearm on them, over 20 armed individuals for 3 members of Congress and 1 mayor. That's an act of intimidation that's meant to silence not just the mayor, not just the 3 of us, but everyone who's concerned about what's happening in this country right now.
Catherine, let's tap your legal expertise. What options does the Newark mayor have now? And what do you make of this situation and legal options for the protesters, too?
Well, first off, thank goodness it was all captured on video, so we get to see what really happened. the government, and I don't know how they will, but the government will have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this was a restricted building, meaning not open to the public, and that the mayor intended to disrupt and impede official government functions. I don't know how they will prove that beyond reasonable doubt, but that is the proof. Now, an arrest does not mean a prosecution, so this could go away. But if there is a prosecution, the governor is going to have to prove those elements. And what does the mayor have to do? He has wisely, on the advice of his criminal defense counsels, not really spoke about the facts. We can see it for ourselves. He can, if obviously sue, bring an action for false arrest. In federal law, that would be considered like a 1983 action, malicious prosecution. But let's not forget, this happened in Newark, and he's the mayor of Newark. And if this is public property, I would think that a mayor can go anywhere in his city where it's public.
Congressman, I want to zoom out a little bit, right? Because, mayor, members of Congress being roughed up in the way that we saw. But it's happening to kind of everyday citizens around the country, right? We're seeing people being pulled off of the streets and not deported, but kicked out of the country over and over and over again. And so I guess, what do you think these kinds of actions are telling the American people, especially when they do them with powerful people like you guys?
I think it's clear the administration wants to send a message that everyone in this country should be afraid, that everyone should be fearful, that no one's safe, that no one's protected. I mean, the fact that you had 3 members of Congress and the way they were violent with us for just being there to perform our oversight authority, which we've done, by the way, 2 times this year already at the Elizabeth Detention Center with no issue. They knew why we were there. They chose to come out with over, again, 20 armed officers, the entirety of the Newark field office, and they came out to intimidate us, to try to silence us, to try to silence the mayor. And I think the question every American should be asking themselves when they're watching this is, who's safe in this country? Who's protected in this country with this administration in charge? And if they're being honest with themselves, if they have the chance to truly reflect on it, especially after what they saw yesterday, I think they would know that the answer is no one.
Catherine, let me get your reaction to more of what Mayor Baraka had to say after his release in his interview with Jen Psaki. This is element 1, the mayor talking about the dispute that he has with the detention facility.
The reality is we're in a dispute. Like, they have one point of view, we have another point of view. But disputes are settled in court. Like, ICE doesn't settle our disputes, neither does the President of the United States, nor does the U.S. Attorney. Disputes are settled in a court of law, which is what we were doing. They, taking a lead from the President of the United States, they feel like they could just violate any court and do whatever they want.
And so, Catherine, I'm just wondering, I mean, we've seen this over and over and over again. Mayor Baraka got arrested. A federal judge in Wisconsin got arrested. We're seeing this happen. What recourse does the mayor have?
Well, I think the congressman said it earlier. One could argue that this is an intent by the government to intimidate, to not just intimidate the people who are being arrested, but to intimidate others. And the recourse is you fight. You get lawyers. Lawyers fight. The lawyers, if this is a prosecution, as I said, this government is going to have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this mayor intended to impede and obstruct government functions. It's even a question whether or not this restricted building, which is privately owned, can be considered federal. So he will have criminal defense attorneys will fight. The judge in Wisconsin will too. And obviously there is the civil option for the mayor, who can argue and will argue that this was a false arrest and violated his rights.
Outside of prison, the mayor's brother said, this is a sign we have to fight. We have to fight for our rights. And so I want to pull up the quote from Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries and get Congressman Menendez's response to that. So Congressman Jeffries released a statement saying the masked agents who physically accosted two congresswomen must be identified immediately and any trumped-up charges against Mayor Baraka dropped. The specific role played by the for-profit operators of this detention center in today's disgraceful events will be heavily scrutinized in this congressional term and beyond. Presidents come and go. The House of Representatives will endure. So, Congressman, what kind of scrutiny will be given to these for-profit operators? Because this is big business. This is, it reminds me of the private security contractors during the Iraq War's war on terror. That you have so many military, industrial contractors lining up. And so is Congress going to look into who is making money off of human suffering?
Well, we absolutely should. I think the question the American people have is, are Republicans going to exercise their oversight authority as the majority party, which they absolutely should. They should have answers for all of the allocation of federal dollars and oversight over federal contractors, especially ones the size and scale of these private detention center operators. But it's important to note that the people who physically assaulted Congresswoman MacIver and Congresswoman Watson-Coleman were members of the federal government. They were ICE officers, they were HSI officers, which means they were officers within the Department of Homeland Security. If the administration wants to be a law and order administration, why would they not ask for clarity on what happened? Why would they not ask for the names of the individuals who were there that day so they could get a detailed understanding of what happened? You can't have it both ways. This administration wants to lie and gaslight the American people. Minutes after what happened, they were already spinning what happened because they don't want the press, they don't want Americans to be asking the questions about what happened to Congresswoman MacIver, what happened to Congresswoman Watson-Coleman, because if people start asking those questions and we were given real clarity and answers on what happened, I guarantee you every American would be shaken to their core.
There are just so many questions left unanswered, and hopefully Congress is going to pursue that charge. Representative Rob Menendez and Catherine Christian, thank you so much for being with us this morning.